walk into this room at your own risk, because it leads to the future. Not a future that will be, but one that might be. This is not a new world. It is simply an extension of what began in the old one. It has patterned itself after every dictator who has ever planted the ripping imprint of a boot on the pages of history since the beginning of time. It has refinements, technological advances, and a more sophisticated approach to the destruction of human freedom. But like every one of the super-states that preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace. This is Mr. Romney Wordsworth in his last 48 hours on Earth. He's a citizen of the state, but will soon have to be eliminated because he is built out of flesh and because he has a mind.
You've been under investigation, Mr. Wordsworth, for the mandatory period of 1 year and 11 months. You're found to be obsolete. The purpose of this hearing is to make a finding in the matter and make a sentence accordingly. Do you understand that, Mr. Wordsworth? Your occupation, Mr. Wordsworth?
A librarian, sir.
A librarian. Having to do with books.
Yes, sir. Books.
Since there are no more books, Mr. Wordsworth, there are no more libraries. The field investigators in your sector have classified you as obsolete. Your rights are as follows, Mr. Wordsworth. You are to be liquidated within a period of 48 hours. You are obsolete, Mr. Wordsworth.
A lie. No man is obsolete.
You have no function, Mr. Wordsworth. You're an anachronism, like a ghost from another time.
I am nothing more than a reminder to you that you cannot destroy truth by burning pages.
You're a bug, Mr. Wordsworth, a crawling insect, an ugly, misformed little creature who has no purpose here, no meaning.
I am a human being.
Delusions, Mr. Wordsworth. Delusions that you inject into your veins with printer's ink. The narcotics that you call literature, poetry, essays of all kind, all of it an opiate. You have nothing but spindly limbs and a dream, and the state has no use for your kind.
I don't care. I tell you, I don't care. I'm a human being. I exist. And if I speak one thought aloud, that thought lives, even after I'm shoveled into my grave.
The Chancellor, the late Chancellor, was only partly correct. He was obsolete. But so is the state, the entity he worshipped. Any state, any entity, any ideology that fails to recognize the worth, the dignity, the rights of man, that state is obsolete.
Hello to you all. We are streaming live from Maastricht. And how are we all doing today? We're going to look at politics and geopolitics, of course, as we usually do at RHTVLive. So let's take a look at what's happening in the world, right? First, we're going to show where we are streaming live from. Here we go. Here we have Maastricht, which is in the south of the Netherlands. And I was watching an interview with Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan. A very interesting interview, you know, very interesting, put it that way. I wanted to rephrase it in another word, but we're going to take a listen to Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan as we're showing the map of the Netherlands and Europe So there we have it, right? And let's take a look at Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan. Now, Tucker Carlson is talking about the audience, right? The audience listening to the performance. And yeah, we're going to take a listen to this here.
Inherently fraudulent.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm giving control of my mind over to someone who is himself under the control of somebody else. Do you know what I mean?
You mean if you're stealing?
No, if I'm in the audience.
Right.
And I would say this also goes for ideas, for commentary. You know, that's not funny, but that's real.
Right.
And you see it a lot. I've seen it a lot.
Yeah, you see bullshit a lot.
Well, the number of people who are totally not controlled, who are really saying what they actually believe with no weird agenda that they're not telling you about is pretty small.
Yeah.
And I just have noticed that a lot recently, particularly on the question of wokeness and free speech.
We at RHTVLive are not controlled by anyone, right? We just give an opinion on what's happening in and around our beautiful planet.
There are a lot of people who are like on your side because they're for free speech, who are not actually for free speech at all, who are pushing a very specific foreign policy agenda, for example, and using another issue to lower your defenses and let themselves into your brain. And I think that's really sinister, really, really, really sinister. And it's becoming more obvious now. Like if you're for free speech, then you're just for free speech because you support the principle. It doesn't, the content of the speech is not that interesting to you. The fact that a sovereign human being has the right to express himself because he's not a slave, he's a citizen and a human being, like that's what matters.
Yeah.
And if all of a sudden you like become famous, like I'm for free speech, and then you support silencing people who articulate opinions you disagree with, like you're a fraud. Mm-hmm. You're kind of a sinister fraud.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because that's the business I'm in.
You see, I am for free speech, and I don't care what people think about me. You know, I'm just giving information on what's happening, right? This is a very interesting interview where they have discussions about UFOs and, you know, paranormal stuff, and also this here, you know, a perspective on the audience.
Boy, I've really noticed that. Have you noticed this?
Yes. And that's also the same kind of thing when you hear them talk. If you hear someone talk that's saying something that's kind of horseshit, it resonates with you. That's what you've seen.
You had a
horseshit
moment
before.
with Barry Weiss on your show that went everywhere. I saw a clip of it. I never saw the show itself, but she was going on about. So she was posing as one thing, and then you pressed her. You're like, well, hold on a second. What do you mean by that? You just attacked somebody. And she had no idea what she was talking about. And it became really clear to me watching it. That completely changed my view of Barry Weiss forever. I was like, oh, she's a fraud, actually. This person's not honest at all. Like she has a very specific agenda. That's all she cares about. The rest of this stuff is just a kind of sleight of hand maneuver.
You're talking about the
people wear masks, right, to protect themselves. You know, it's not a physical mask, but it's like, you know, to protect themselves from the outside world. So they take on a personality and, you know, maybe are the clown or whatever, and this is how they protect themselves. There are many people insecure about themselves, right? These people have tattoos mostly. And, you know, so there's a lot to think about here, right? We are a human species. I don't care where you're from. Whether you're from England, Ireland, Germany, France, Spain, Italy, I don't care. Canada, the USA, You are a human being, right? But, maybe we are being controlled. Well, not maybe, we are being controlled. But by what, right? There is a very famous movie called They Live. Very good movie. And you have this blind priest who tells that we are being controlled, basically. And let's take a look at this here.
Their mouths are full of bitterness and curses, and in their paths, nothing but ruin and misery, and the fear of God is not before their eyes. They have taken the hearts and minds of our leaders. They have recruited the rich and the powerful, and they have blinded us to the truth. And our human spirit is corrupted. Why do we worship greed? Because outside the limit of our sight, feeding off us, perched on top of us from birth to death, are our owners. Our owners. They have us. They control us. They are our masters. Wake up. They're all about you, all around you.
This is the truth, right? Because if we look at propaganda, a book by Edward Bernays, you'll see that he talks about the invisible mechanisms of society, right? We're going to look it up. We shown it quite a few times. So we're going to put it on screen. It's a book that came out in 1928, and it's about the human thought patterns and such, how to control this, how to manipulate this, So we're going to show propaganda. Here we go. Edward Bernays, the grandfather of propaganda, right? There. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government. So, when I say that there is a deep state, right, an invisible government, I'm not making this up, right? There is an invisible government. So we must be aware of this system that we live in, right? We must be aware of how propaganda really works. So, invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. And that applies to every country in the world, right? Whether it's Pyongyang or Moscow or Paris or New York, there's an invisible government, a deep state. So we are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we never heard of. Well, I'm not that famous, I'm just a guy with an opinion. just showing what's happening here, right? And, you know, the audience, maybe people can learn from this. So they're marching towards the world government. We're also going to take a look at that, right? In the memoirs of David Rockefeller. Anyway, this is a logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organized. So we all have to face that way, you know, without questioning. Vast numbers of human beings must cooperate in this manner if they are to live together as a smoothly functioning society. In almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct or our ethical thinking, we are dominated by the relatively small number of persons who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind. Right? Now, let's take a look at David Rockefeller. Let's see if we can find that. David Rockefeller. No? Memoirs. Rockefeller. Okay. We're going to look it up, right? So, what else do we have? How was your weekend? Let's just talk about life. Right? There's so much to talk about. How was your weekend? Was it good? Did you enjoy it? So, David Rockefeller, let's look it up. David Rockefeller. We almost have it. Here we have the quote, right? Here we go. I've shown it a couple of times, you know. So, David Rockefeller is at a meeting, right? Somewhere in Switzerland, and talking to the press. So, we are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subjected to the lights of publicity during those years. But the world is more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. We're in the stages of the world government, right? At least over here in Europe. We're in the EU. There's also the Russian Federation, but we are in the EU, right? This is the first step of the world government. And after this, there's the North American Union. This is why the Democratic Party wanted to stay in power. You know, the nationalists have to go. They're deemed as dangerous and stuff like that. Because the left is, you know, global, basically. Right? They love the United Nations. They love all these organizations that no one voted for. The problem here in the Netherlands is that, you know, there's a large population that is still happy with the EU, even though, you know, we are one of the largest payers to the EU. So we have another quote. For more than a century, ideological extremists at either end of the political spectrum, right, whether it's left or right, have seized upon well-publicized incidents such as my encounter with Castro to attack the Rockefeller family for the inordinate influence they claim we wield over American political and economic institutions. Some even believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interest of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists or globalists, and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure. One world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I'm proud of it. We know the United Nations was, you know, built on Rockefeller land, right? They highly invested in the United Nations. So this is all happening, you know, right in front of our eyes. This is just a totalitarian system, right? That, you know, we have no control over. That's not politics. That's politics for the few, right? George Carlin had said, you know, it's one big club and you're not in it. And it's true. It's true. I never went to the Bohemian Grove, right? You know, they never invited me. So we're going to take a look at a video of someone in Australia, Senator Malcolm Roberts, talking about the pandemic, right? We remember the pandemic. We have a memory. We survived the toilet paper war. So we know. We're going to take a look at this video here of Senator in Australia.
It's become clear that people in this country and globally have been steamrolled. It is also clear that it has been coordinated globally. It is also clear that it has been integrated, not just over 6 months, not just over 2.5 years, but it has been planned over decades. The changes to legislation in this country were done so that they could control doctors and people. But the people are waking, and it's thanks to people like Dr. Altman and all the presenters here today, thanks to people like Senator Debat and Craig Kelly. We know and we knew that this is all bullshit and that we've been had. But we are going to hound you down, the people that are guilty. We are going to hound you down and hold you accountable. And we will expose your global agenda so that the people of Australia can be free in the future. Because I love my kids and I'm looking forward to my grandkids. And we are going to save this country. It's become clear that people in this country and globally have been steamrolled. It is also clear that it has been coordinated globally. it is also clear that it has been integrated not just over 6 months, not just over 2.5 years, but it has been planned over decades. The changes to legislation in this country were done so that they could control doctors and people. But the people are waking, and it's thanks to people like Dr. Altman and all the presenters here today, thanks to people like Senator Debat and Craig Kelly. We know and we knew that this is all bullshit. And
it was all bullshit. It was about public power, not about public health, not about, saving the people, right? If it was about that, there would not be any war, right? We would not have a war in Ukraine, for example, right? If it was about saving people. No, we're dealing with a political class who does not care about the rest of the people, right? And we have a queen in the Netherlands, Queen Maxima, who goes to the World Economic Forum, right? And, basically is promoting the CBDC, the central bank digital currency. Whilst over here in the Netherlands, we get to hear our monarchy has no political influence. So we're going to take a look at that. We need to understand this globally, right? Global. So here we have Queen Maxima talking about the CBDC.
Type of ID, and certainly that it was digital, and certainly that it was biometric. And we've really worked with all our partners to actually help that being, to grow this. And the interesting part of it is that, yes, it is very necessary for financial services, but not only. So it's also good for school enrollment. It's also good for health, who actually got a vaccination or not. It's very good to actually to get your subsidies, from the government. So this has not only effect to the financial services. It's a very important issue.
No, your subsidies from the government. Yeah. The same government that can shut off your subsidies, right? Yeah, I'm more a free market kind of guy, So I believe that anyone can do anything and earn money with that, right? And government regulation is bad. You do not want that. There has to be some rules, but, the overextension of rules of the government is basically bad. The government is supposed to be there to protect you, not to attack you, not to put you on some terror list or have all sorts of trolls, responding. So we're also going to take a look at this here. Here we see an Israeli guy going to a Palestinian flag, and we're not going to show all of the video because the guy will be blown to smithereens, right? So that's happening there. And let's see what else we got here. We have someone being kidnapped in Ukraine to join the forces at the east of Ukraine. See, right? Yeah, the guy obviously wanted to come along, take him by the feet, right? So this is happening in Ukraine. People are being kidnapped. People with the Down syndrome are being put into the front lines. And over here we have a new car. Now, who bought that new car? Vladimir Zelensky. Yep. Slav Ukrainian. And a smiley face for that. $61 billion went to Ukraine. So Vladimir Zelensky could buy a new car, right? And he's proud of it. He's boasting about it. Whilst he's putting retarded people, they're also people, but putting them to the front lines. And he's a big coward. He's a war criminal. Someone who's in power. The throne of power has blood on it, right? They don't care. They do not care. So what else do we got? We've shown that. There we have the intro. Also very interesting. We also have Frans Timmermans basically saying we must prevent the PVV from getting into power, right? We also have this here. The ice caps are melting or have melted, basically, because Al Gore and John Kerry were predicting that the polar ice caps would be gone by 2024. So we're going to take a look at this here. These scammers, right? Both Democratic Party scammers, and it's amazing. It really is amazing. The polar ice caps are still there, right? They're lying through their teeth.
There is a 75% chance that the entire North Polar ice cap during some of the summer months could be completely ice-free within the next 5 to 7 years.
You have sea ice, which is melting at a rate that the Arctic Ocean now increasingly is exposed. In 5 years, scientists predict we will have the first ice-free Arctic.
There is a 75%.
Have you seen the last winter in the U.S.? Right? We're going to look it up. Winter USA 2023. There we go. Now, you tell me, are the ice caps really melting? Wait, we're going to take a look at some video of the United States last winter, right? Here we go. Are the ice caps really melting? Are we really in global warming? Because to my knowledge, this is global cooling. Right? To my knowledge, we are living on a planet that heats itself up and cools itself down when needed, right? So we're going to take a look at this here. The first major snowstorm of the season impacts Montana. This is 5 months ago. Not that long ago. So, you tell me, are the ice caps really melting? are we in global warming? Here we have a video of 4 months ago.
To the early blasts of winter, snow slamming parts of the Northeast to go along with the bone-chilling deep freeze for millions of Americans. Rob Marciano is in upstate New York for us this morning. Good morning, Rob.
Hey, good morning, Michael. You know, we get a cold outbreak this time of year. It means one thing for places like this in Pulaski. It means lake effect snow big time, and it is coming down here on Main Street. You hear the buzz of little bobcats, but they've already brought in the heavy equipment here. Big wheel load, forget about plows, big wheel loaders to catch this snow and get it onto dump trucks and just move it out of here, because even though we've already got about a foot, they know there is.
So let's repeat what John Kerry and that other liar had said. What's his face? Al Gore, right? Oh, the sky's falling. Sky's falling. So we saw images of last winter, right? 2023, 2024. It was a long winter. 4 months ago, there was still a pack of snow, right? So let's take a look at this liar and John Kerry has also lied about MH17. We'll get to that.
There is a 75% chance that the entire North Polar ice cap during some of the summer months could be completely ice-free within the next 5 to 7 years.
You have sea ice, which is melting at a rate that the Arctic Ocean now increasingly is exposed. In 5 years, scientists predict we will have the...
No, 5 years, 5 years. So in 2009, DEMS predicted climate collapse by 2013. So we're in 2024, to my knowledge, and you know, it's been snowing last winter, and Canada and the US were frozen over, and we're supposed to believe these Democrats talking about climate change. Now, why do they use climate change, right? They know every country has their own law. You know, the Netherlands has laws that Germany does not have, stuff like that, right? So how do you take control of a country? You think of reasons to take control of a country, right? Such as climate change. Yeah, the climate's always changing. But is it going to extremes? Well, maybe the seasons have shifted a bit, you know. November was cold and such, and all the way to late February, March, right? So this is all happening. This is a scam right in front of your eyes, right? And you know, they're still pressing on with the climate scam. And there are still people who believe this, you know, people who really, really believe that there's something wrong with the planet. In my humble opinion, there's something wrong with the person, right? So when you go to school, you educate yourself about life, you know, and such. But that does not happen in school anymore, because there are kids wearing dog tails and cat whiskers and stuff like that, calling themselves furries, right? Attack of the Furries. So we're going to take a look at a video we found about the furries. I'm not making this up, right? Let's take a look. Wait, we're going to share the video screen. There we go. Here we have Mark Dice giving us the info on what's happening in the U.S., right? And let's see if, no, not that one. Let's see if we can find it. Right here. Middle school kids revolt against next phase of wokeness.
Middle school students in Utah have had enough with their fellow classmates identifying as animals and acting like animals and dressing up as animals, or furries, really, to be more specific, when they come to school. And so they had a protest the other day, and it's making national headlines. And it wasn't just a few students, it was a lot of them. Get a load of this. We the people, not the animals.
Somebody was telling me that the furries were attacking you guys in class. Is that right?
Yeah, they bite kids. They bite people. They will bite ankles.
And how do they bite your ankle?
They will bite your ankle, right? So you have someone on a leash crawling on all fours and probably drooling and stuff like that, you know, acting as a dog and attacking these school kids. And you're telling me that there's something wrong with the planet. No, there's really something wrong with the people on the planet. Right?
Why would they?
They walk on all fours, run down the hall, and scratch people, lift your shoes, and then bite you.
So the liberal media and school officials are doing damage control, claiming that this is all just fake news and that there is no evidence of furries in the Nebo School District, despite the allegations and the social media firestorm.
We begin in Payson, where a group of about 75 protesters showed up to Nebo Middle School today. They say it's an issue over students who call themselves furries. But how much of that discontent is fueled by rumor? Our Sarah Murphy asked that question. She's here with what she found out. Sarah, what's this all about?
It's about prejudice. The students aren't being inclusive enough for their fellow furry identifiers.
All right, Brian. Well, the term furry, it refers to someone interested in animals with human qualities. Now,
it refers to crazy people.
They dress up like this as a cartoon version of an animal. Now, we've learned there have been reports at Nebo Middle School that students are getting mistreated over this topic.
There's a lot of speculation surrounding the protest that happened at Nebo Middle School Wednesday morning. Nearly 75 students and parents showed up facing the school, saying they're unhappy with how administration is handling reports of harassment.
Here's one of them now.
You guys cannot record me without my permission!
This is video a Nebo Middle School student took last week. Parents say
There's the tail. Did you see that?
An issue.
Do you see that? Society has gone amok, right? These kids are supposed to learn about Aristotle, Plato, a bit of Tolstoy, it's a long pill, War and Peace, or, listen to Mozart, right? What normal people would do.
Between some students and others who called.
So other kids are just videotaping these weirdos to put them on TikTok and be like, hey, we got some furries at our school. And so the furries are getting upset.
Themselves furries, or people who enjoy dressing up as cartoonish animals.
Here's more footage of the furries. Okay. Now, you might say...
So they're crawling on all fours, right? Isn't this like something you see in The Walking Dead, for example, right? Someone, zombie crawling on all fours and trying to attack. It's a zombie apocalypse, man. We're in the zombie apocalypse, you know? We're in the Twilight Zone. And society's gone weird, man. When I went to school, I wasn't really the popular kid, but when I went to school, I didn't see kids crawling on the floor, you know, fomenting at the mouth, trying to act as a dog, right? It's like weird, man. What the hell happened? Anyway.
That they're just playing around, that they're just pranking other students, but they're not. I'm not sure if this is the same school or not, but here's Tyrone stumbling across one.
Hey, Bart! Oh, hell no. Y'all niggas wildin' on my mama.
Do not make fun of it.
What the talking about?
This is about domination, right? It's not only about weird people, it's also about domination. You know, one has to dominate the other. This is what happens in a weird society, man.
Across one.
Hey, Bart! Oh,
so we have a woman controlling a guy, and the guy thinks he's a dog. Society's gone amok, man. You know, it's really gone amok. Like, what the heck happened? Did I, like, time travel to the Twilight Zone? You know, because I'm kind of wondering, right? This is not normal. This is not normal behavior. There's something wrong with these kids. Maybe it's in the water. I don't know. Who knows? You know, but there's something wrong with these kids. Maybe it's attention. I don't know. Do they get enough parental attention? I don't think so. Because the parents would not agree to this. Most parents. Most rational parents. Right? We are in a mass psychosis. And there's also a very interesting video about that we often play. So we're going to take a look at this here after school.
The masses have never thirsted after truth. They turn aside from evidence that is not to their taste, preferring to deify error if error seduced them. Whoever can supply them with illusions is easily their master. Whoever attempts to destroy their illusions is always their victim. According to the psychologist Carl Jung, the greatest threat to civilization lies not with the forces of nature, nor with any physical disease, but with our inability to deal with the forces of our own psyche. We are our own worst enemies, or as the Latin proverb puts it, man is a wolf to man. In Civilization in Transition, Jung states that this proverb is a sad yet eternal truism, and our wolf-like tendencies come most prominently into play at those times of history when mental illness becomes the norm rather than the exception in a society, a situation which Jung termed a psychic epidemic. Indeed, it is becoming ever more obvious, he writes, that it is not famine, not earthquakes, not microbes, not cancer, but man himself, who is man's greatest danger to man, for the simple reason that there is no adequate protection against psychic epidemics, which are infinitely more devastating than the worst of natural catastrophes. In this video, we are going to explore the most dangerous of all psychic epidemics, the mass psychosis. A mass psychosis is an epidemic of madness, and it occurs when a large portion of a society loses touch with reality and descends into delusions. Such a phenomenon is not a thing of fiction. Two examples of mass psychoses are the American and European witch hunts of the 16th and 17th centuries, and the rise of totalitarianism in the 20th century. During the witch hunts, thousands of individuals, mostly women, were killed, not for any crimes they committed, but because they became the scapegoats of societies gone mad. In some Swiss villages, writes Francis Hill, there were scarcely any women left alive after the frenzy had finally burned itself out. When a mass psychosis occurs, the results are devastating. Jung studied this phenomenon and wrote that the individuals who make up the infected society become morally and spiritually inferior. They sink unconsciously to an inferior intellectual level. They become more unreasonable, irresponsible, emotional, erratic, and unreliable, and worst of all, crimes the individual alone could never stand are freely committed by the group smitten by madness. What makes matters worse is that those suffering from a mass psychosis are unaware of what is occurring. For just as an individual gone mad cannot step out of his mind to observe the errors in his ways, so too there is no Archimedean point from which those living through a mass psychosis can observe their collective madness. But what causes a mass psychosis? To answer this question, we must first explore what drives an individual mad. While there are many potential triggers of madness, such as an excessive use of drugs or alcohol, brain injuries, and other illnesses, these physical causes will not concern us here.
What causes a mass psychosis? Well, the presidential elections are coming up, right, in November in the U.S. And basically, we have two candidates again, right? There's a two-party system. And we have Donald J. Trump, sorry, I needed to cough there. Donald J. Trump against Joe Biden, right? Who is in a decline, in a mental decline, such as society is. But we're looking at the mass psychosis. Now, I was researching this girl, and it's a meme all over internet. You know, this girl screaming, and we're going to take a look at that. You know, take a look at how a mass psychosis really looks like. Here we go.
Donald J. Trump is now President of the United States. President Obama is the ex-president. And Mr. Trump, for the moment, steps away from for the inaugural address. What a great honor to be able to introduce for the first time ever anywhere the 45th President of the United States of America.
This is how mass psychosis looks like, right? Where does this hatred come from? You know, if you compare Trump to Biden, you know, it's good and bad, you know, or the good, bad, and the ugly, right? Or the good and ugly, bad and ugly, kind of like that. You know, there's a binary choice, and both sides are bad. One side is not as bad, right? One side is being set aside, right? The MAGA side of the Republicans being set aside, and their their beacon of hope, Donald Trump, is being prosecuted in almost every state of the U.S. He's more dangerous than Al Capone. Now, so you could put it that way. Even though he hasn't done anything wrong. We've had the Russiagate thing, all Democratic Party, right? Because Hillary Clinton basically lost. She blamed everyone and everything, and she threw her mud at Russia, and that stuck because there's an enemy needed, right? We need an enemy. This is the mass psychosis that the political party is in. We need an enemy. And, if we don't have an enemy, we'll create one, such as Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, basically the Mujahideen that fell apart, right? ISIS to overthrow Assad. We know the game plan. We know. So let's go back to the mass psychosis, right? Because we're telling the truth here, and lots of people cannot stand the truth. The frame of consensus is breaking. What causes a mass psychosis? Now, let's take a look at this here.
Concern is with psychological, or what are called psychogenic triggers, as these are the most common culprits of the mass psychosis. The most prevalent psychogenic cause of a psychosis is a flood of negative emotions, such as fear or anxiety, that drives an individual into a state of panic. When in a state of panic, an individual will naturally seek relief, as it is too mentally and physically draining to subsist in this hyper-emotional state. While escaping from the state of panic can be accomplished through adaptive means, such as facing up to and defeating the fear-generating threat.
This is what we are trying to do, right? We're trying to face the threat, We're trying to inform, bring out the light within the cave. Plato's cave, So we are trying to free the people, free the mind of the people, right? We need an understanding of how the world really works. So, get out of the mass psychosis. Turn off your TV for a while, right? There are more channels on internet than there are on TV. So, there's more to look at than RHTVLive, basically. I'm just doing this because I have a moral duty to do this, right? I have a moral duty to do this. That's how I feel about it. And I don't really care how many viewers I get. And lots of YouTubers, people on YouTube are like, buy my t-shirt, buy these pills, or this is our sponsor. I don't have any sponsors. I don't care for the money. We are here temporarily, right, on this plane of existence. And, we must confront the darkness instead of hiding in the darkness and trusting the darkness to take over the human soul. This is a spiritual warfare that we're in, right?
Another way to escape is to undergo a psychotic break. A psychotic break is not a descent into a state of greater disorder, as many believe, but a reordering of one's experiential world, which blends fact and fiction or delusions and reality in a way that helps end the feelings of panic.
That's where we're in right now. Or we are beyond that phase. You know, look at the whole Russiagate thing. That was basically to distract the audience from what happened with Seth Rich, right, at the DNC. You know, how did this all come out? We know by WikiLeaks. Julian Assange published it, you know, and the DNC said it was a Russian hack. No, it was a leak within the DNC. But they did not want to lose face, so they said it was a Russian hack. You need an enemy, right?
Silvano Arietti, one of the 20th century's foremost authorities on schizophrenia, explains the psychogenic steps that lead to madness. Firstly, there is the phase of panic, when the patient starts to perceive things in a different way, is frightened on account of it, appears confused, and does not know how to explain the strange things that are happening. The next step is what Arietti calls a phase of psychotic insight, whereby an individual succeeds in putting things together by devising a pathological way of seeing reality which allows him to explain his abnormal experiences. The phenomenon is called insight because the patient finally sees meaning and relations in his experiences. But the insight is psychotic because it is based on delusions, not on adaptive and life-promoting ways of relating to whatever threats precipitated the panic. The delusions, in other words, allow the panic-stricken individual to escape from the flood of negative emotions, but at the cost of losing touch with reality, and for this reason, Arietti says that a psychotic break can be viewed as an abnormal way of dealing with an extreme state of anxiety. If a panic-triggering flood of negative emotions in a weak and vulnerable individual can trigger a psychotic break, then a mass psychosis can result when a population of weak and vulnerable individuals is driven into a state of panic by threats real, imagined, or fabricated. But as
that was 2020, right? These are the stages that we're in, you know. Deadly virus. No, we remember, right? We remember the dancing nurses, and you know, we remember. Yeah, put it that way. And we got a lot more to show. Well, first we're going to play this here.
Delusions can take many forms, and as madness can manifest in countless ways, the specific manner in which a mass psychosis unfolds will differ based on the historical and cultural context of the infected society. But in the modern era, it is the mass psychosis of totalitarianism that appears to be the greatest threat. Totalitarianism, writes Arthur Versluis, is the modern phenomenon of total centralized state power, coupled with the obliteration of individual human rights. In the totalized state, there are those in power, and there are the objectified masses, the victims.
This is the stage that we are in now, right? You know, we are in a totalitarian system. They can spy on us via our laptop, tablet, and telephone, you know. Even the street lights outside can record you and stuff like that. You know, we are living in such an age where freedom, you know, is a bygone thing. Freedom of speech, freedom to have the fruits of your labor, right, without government seizing it, or without you having to pay taxes, right? That's not what government is for. It used to be more diplomatic post than all over the country, right? So times change. Times really change. Do we remember the toilet paper war, right? Do we remember that? People fighting over toilet paper. We're going to take a look at this here.
One per person. What?
Now, keep in mind that the mass psychosis. This is very sad to see. You know, there's so much toilet paper, you know, and people are fighting over this. Really? You know, if you disagree politically, you can talk about it, you know, and maybe come to a conclusion. But fighting over toilet paper, really? Really? And we degraded that low. We have, because our children are acting as animals, and the mass psychosis is still growing, right? We saw that woman crying over Trump. It's like, what the hell is happening with you, man? You know, the presidential term is just 4 years, right? So, yeah, you get rid of the guy sooner or later, you know, whether it's Biden or Trump. So, and I don't mean it physically, right? Hope they have long lives, but, you know, the presidential term is just 8 years, basically, if you're elected twice. So, you know, and they are trying to project brewing civil war, right? There's this movie that came out called Civil War. Not, you know, not Captain America Civil War. No, Civil War. There we go. No, we're not going to show all of it, right?
All across America, critics are raving about the movie event of the year.
It is American, 100%. That's what I'm talking about.
The movie event of the year. Yeah, it's always like that, right? You know, but this is basically a civil war, and it's not really known what it's about. Photographers are followed around right through the heart of the U.S., you know, and that's what basically the story is about. They want to interview the president, and you know, the premise of the movie is basically what Hollywood wants, right? They want a civil war. They want the fight against each other. This is how they play the game, right? So it's all propaganda, man, you know. Anyway, I think I've said enough for today. Let's see, Samson. He's got cool rap songs, such as this one here.
Don't tread on me. Those are words that I stand by, homie. It doesn't mean I'm gangster, it doesn't mean I'm country. It means that my life is in my hands only. I don't have money for security, I don't have armed guards that I keep snug around me. You don't think I deserve protection like you do, and that means you don't give a fuck about me. Gated community, that's what you live in. Hatred and mutiny, that's what we live in. So come down here and hang with us for a minute. See if you leave with the same fucking opinion. Who's gonna help me out if I get robbed? What if somebody were to beat up my mother? Who's gonna be there to save our lives? You? Nah, me, motherfucker. I'm the only one that's got my back. It's dog eat dog, these are not no cats. There's cops in Michigan that can't even respond to their calls cause their cars ain't got no gas. Great. Police don't have any fuel, you don't know if they'll arrive when you call them. The babies are starving, my girlfriend can't find a tampon, and yet somehow you and I are the problem. Somehow. I've never bought a gun without having my background scanned and approved. The only loophole I've seen on a gun is the one that you put a fucking lanyard through. It's not true that you can go to the store and just swipe your card and get a Glock and run. It's funny, the people that say that shit have literally never even shot one. Dumbass. Hey, Matthew McConaughey. Shut the fuck up. Just cause you've murdered people on screen doesn't mean you know shit about guns, you dumb fuck. What, you're worried about us? What about all of those violent movies that you played? How about you go talk to Alec Baldwin before you start telling me what to do, okay? Uvalde? I was horrified by it. That's your hometown, you were born right by it. It probably cuts deep and I hope that it does, cause you work in an industry that glorifies violence. It's more your fault than it will ever be mine. Lord only knows how many crimes that you've influenced throughout your whole career, cause I've seen you kill people plenty of times. What do you think is gonna cause a shooting? A YouTube video of a gun review? Or a Hollywood murder scene that seems so realistic it looks like it's from the news? So next time that you wanna point your finger with a stupid opinion and chime in with it, remember, it ain't me that they're trying to be like, dog. It's you that they're trying to mimic. I feel way more safe in a place where the people are legally armed. If something happens like a mass shooting, I have a way less chance of being lethally harmed. A criminal is gonna think twice if he knows everybody is a piece underneath their clothes. And Mayor Lightfoot will probably tell you different, but have you seen Chicago? And no, before you ask, I don't wanna be like Canada either. And I don't wanna be like Australia. I'm sick of everybody using them as a humanity meter. There's a reason that they can do whatever they want to their citizens, like fucking throw them in camps. And there's a reason that our government doesn't even try that shit, cause they know that they can't. If you don't think for one split second that if we didn't have our Second Amendment, the government wouldn't overstep its boundaries and make us do shit even when we're against it, you're out of your mind. I don't give a damn where you stand or how or what you vote. That's dandy and fine if you trust Uncle Sam, but I, for one, fucking don't. And why would I? What have they done? Give me a reason for me to believe them. They want to trade me a little security in exchange for a big-ass piece of my freedom. They don't want to take away guns because they care about you and they want to keep you safe at night. They want to take away guns because it's easy to control people if they don't have any way to fight. Hey buddy, what your little AR-15 gonna do if the government comes to take it? Well, Ukraine started handing out rifles to all of the citizens when the Russians invaded, so what about that? I thought it wouldn't help. I guarantee that it'd be better than nothing. I hope it never does, but if the day comes, I bet that you're gonna wish that you had something. This is the only country on earth where the people have real strength. And nowadays, with all the shit going on, that's the only thing that makes me feel safe. If there's anything that I've learned in the past couple of years looking back at the pandemic, all of the shit that we have is fragile, and it could snap at any second. Fuck all of the politicians. I don't trust anything they say. Take the word gun out of gun control and that's all that it is at the end of the day. I don't give a fuck how crazy you think that I look or I sound when I say this shit, but our Second Amendment's the only thing that stands between us and a dictatorship. And as for the kids, I'm not a security expert, so I won't act like one. But I think that if we can send over $50 billion to Ukraine, we could surely spend that much, or more, or less, here in our own country to fortify our schools and make them more secure so that every kid can get an education safe and sound. Place several trained armed guards in every school across America. You know, real men who won't stand by for 45 minutes in the hallway while a shooting unfolds in front of their own eyes. And pay them well, too. There's veterans that need the work. Why not protect our kids the same way that we protect you? Politicians are protected by guns. Celebrities are protected by guns. Every important person that walks this earth is protected by a gun. But our kids, they're important. Just not as much as you.
Everyone is important. Every life is important, right? But, you know, some people are very, very confused on this planet. So, yeah. We're going to close off. I thank you all for watching, and we'll see each other